Let me ask you some questions about your city. Could you guess what the ideal capacity of the on-site storage containers and the collection fleet should be? How big should a composting plant be to treat all the generated organic waste? What is the potential income from recovering plastics? Or do you reckon it would be viable to build an incineration plant? These are the sort of questions that many municipalities face when planning their waste infrastructure. However, in order to answer them, you need to know how much municipal solid waste is generated and what this waste consists of. In order to get this information, you need to conduct a waste generation and characterization study, also called waste audit. This is what we will learn in this and the next module. After watching these two modules, you will be able to explain why a waste generation and characterization study is required, how to plan such a study, measure the domestic generation rate both per capita and for an entire city, and conduct a characterization study itself. In this module, we will show you how to do such a study for household waste. The same steps are, however, valid for commerce, restaurants, shops, or institutions waste, such as schools. Good. Let's see how to plan a waste audit. In the coming slides, we will explain 9 important aspects that need to be considered before conducting a waste audit. When planning a waste generation characterization study, the first thing you need to think of is where you will collect your waste from. Waste quantities can be measured at a number of different points within the waste value chain, from generation to disposal, as shown in this illustration. Along this value chain, the amounts and characteristics of the waste vary, since part of the waste is extracted at various points for reuse or recycling, and the remaining materials are more mixed and degraded, which adapts their properties. In this module, we will show how to conduct a waste audit of household waste, and therefore, we are focused at the generation point. The second aspect to consider is the sample size. It is impossible to measure all the household waste generated in a city, and therefore, you will need to work with samples. That means choosing a given number of households from the total population, here the one shown in blue. We know that, for example, the income level often has an impact on the type of waste generated. Therefore, it might make sense to distinguish 3 different household types: high, middle, and lower income households. The question that you are probably asking now is, how many households from each category should be considered? The methodology to calculate the precise sample size is well explained in many other sources and is therefore not covered in this module. However, we provide additional relevant material on this topic in the end of this 2-part module. Once you've calculated the required number of households from which you need to take the samples, identify and randomly select these households for the audit. Assign a number or a code to each of them. Then, you need to decide how many waste fractions you want to consider. Characterization studies can be conducted for an extensive list of waste fractions, such as the ones considered here in the ATSM standard, or in a simple list consisting of the main fraction categories. You should also account for both daily and seasonal fluctuations of waste amounts and characterization. For that, waste must be obtained and analyzed for a minimum of 7 days in a row. Furthermore, providing there are big seasonal variations, repeat the audits 2 or 4 times throughout the year. Have a look at this old example of Seoul from 1989. See how the amounts of combustible fractions are much smaller in winter times and how the share of coal ash increases drastically. Keep in mind that every time you repeat the audit, it is crucial to be consistent with your method. That means sticking to the same sample size, to the same waste fractions, and to the same calculation methods. This will allow you to be able to compare the results on a later stage. After having defined the sample size, you will have an idea of how much waste you will be dealing with. Accordingly, choose a site where you can store and manipulate all this waste. Ideally, this site should be flat and covered, have enough space, be accessible to vehicles bringing the waste, have access to water for drinking and washing purposes, and offer protection from pests. How many people should you involve in the audit? Well, as a rough approximation, think that each person can handle and sort around 50 kilograms of municipal solid waste per day. All staff hired should be trained properly on the aim of the waste audit, the main steps, and the risks. Since sorting waste can be tedious and dangerous, the members of the sorting team must be instructed to drink water to avoid dehydration and to take adequate breaks, as well as to use personal protective equipment. And they should also be warned about infection risks and importance of washing hands with soap and water before eating, drinking, and smoking, as well as the importance of good lifting techniques to avoid musculoskeletal problems. Safety equipment for every person should include hat or cap to protect head from dirt and sun, face masks to avoid inhaling noxious particles, long-sleeved shirt and long pants to protect arms and legs from dirt and injury, long thick gloves to protect hands, rubber boots to protect feet, and additionally, staff could also be provided with an apron to protect stomach area, a hand sanitizer, and a first aid kit including eye bath. Here we see an example from Peru. Check the characteristics of the measurement site, how well the staff is protected. Besides the personal protective equipment, there is also the equipment required for the waste audit. In this table, we see the main items that are required for collection, for measuring the waste generation rate, and to conduct the waste characterization. Finally, you should prepare and print spreadsheets that will be used to record all the information, as we will show in the next module. And that's it! In this module, we went through 9 important aspects to be considered before conducting a waste generation and characterization study. Stay with us in the next module, in which we will jump right on the action and get our hands, better say protective gloves, dirty with all sorts of waste types.